We will get started with the Fast Five.
Okay.
What's your name?
My name is Marque Renshaw, and my husband's name is Ryan Renshaw.
And what's your farm's name?
Peace in the Valley Farms.
And where are you located?
We are located in West Plains, Missouri.
When Ryan had messaged me and y'all were located in West Plains, there's a South Pole breeder there. Name escapes me, but I've thought I'd like to go West Plains.
Yeah.
And I look it up on a map because it's in Missouri, not far. I'm like an hour from Missouri.
Okay.
But when I look where West Plains is, it's clear across the state. It's a long ways over there.
Yeah. Yep. It's a jog across there for sure.
Yes. And what livestock species do you graze?
So we're basically sheep, but we also have a few Jersey cows in there. And we have horses, but most of the time the horses are pinned up just because they like to run through sheep and knock things down and around.
Yes.
So
That's so true. I have a donkey runs with my sheep, but sometimes he earns his other name,
yes.
We'll go with that.
Yep, we've had donkeys, lots of donkeys. We know that name.
Right. And what year did y'all start grazing animals?
So we have had animals, my whole life. And what I thought was rotational grazing and what really is rotational grazing was completely different.
Welcome to the Grazing Grass Podcast, the podcast dedicated to sharing the stories of grass-based livestock producers and exploring regenerative practices that improve the land, animals, and our lives. I'm your host, Gal Hardage. And each week we'll dive into the journeys, challenges, and successes of producers like you, learning from their experiences and inspiring each other to grow and graze better. Whether you're a seasoned grazer or just getting started, this is the place for you. Ranchers, farmers, and landowners, if you're looking to optimize your grazing operation and boost your bottom line, Noble Research Institute can help. The Noble approach to education pairs their own in-field research with the expertise of ranch managers and advisors to find practical solutions to your unique challenges. In July, Noble's in-person courses will head into new areas. Join them in McKenzie, North Dakota, July 15th through the 16th for Noble Land Essentials. In Pendleton, Oregon, July 30th through 31st for Noble Profitability Essentials. The expansion doesn't stop there. Later this year, they'll be in Winter Garden, Florida, with the Business of Grazing. And right now, each of these 2-day courses is $50 off the regular price. The pricing is available for a limited time, so take advantage of the savings and visit noble.org to learn more about the courses and enroll today. For 10 seconds about the farm, not much change for us this week. Is a little drier than it's been, and ground's drying out a little bit on top. So I expect to see some hay being baled in our area. For 10 seconds about the podcast, we launched the Grazing Grass Resources as well as the Grass-Based Genetics. The Grazing Grass Resources strives to be a listing of those resources that'd be beneficial to a grass farmer. I encourage you to go take a look at it. I also encourage you to make a listing there. If you've got a farm, list your farm there. If you're a mentor, list it. If you're a consultant, list it. If you've got a business that caters to regenerative ranchers, regenerative farmers, it should be listed there. I do know when you sign up to verify your email, that email is going to spam. So still working on some hiccups, but if you have any trouble, you just reach out to me. If you don't want to create an account to get a listing there, or you want to suggest a listing, another business that's been instrumental in your journey, you can do that without creating an account. There's a form there. And then we have the Grass-Based Genetics. That's a directory of operations that breed livestock that excel, that thrive on grass. So I suggest you go over there and look. If you're in the market for livestock, that's the perfect place for you to go find breeders that will have animals that will excel on grass. If you're a breeder of those animals and you're not listed there, I encourage you to go over there and get your listing added. If you have any trouble, reach out to me. cal@grazinggrass.com. And with that being said, let's get back to Marque.
So I would say that this is our first year of actual rotational grazing every single day, doing it right. Because our rotational grazing, when I was growing up, my family said they rotationally grazed, but it was really there's a hole in the fence and the cattle just moved themselves across property. There was there was no rotation about it as far as what we were managing at all. So this will be this has been our first actual year, but we kind of have a unique story where we had a house fire and a lot of things happened and we got moved to this property. And the farm that we bought has been rotationally grazed, and I could be lying, and I can't remember which year number it was, but it was either 25 or 32 years they've been rotationally grazing here.
Oh, yes.
So when we moved here and we come and looked at this property, it was in December, and I walked out there and grass is over my knee. You know, it was dead and dormant, but I thought, there's no way. I said, how long is this farm set for? And the cows were in the back field. I thought, there's no way. How is there this much grass?
Yes.
It's unlike anything I'd ever seen. And so I was sold out on it completely.
Was that your first time to really consider the potential of daily rotations? Or had you all talked about that in the past?
No. So when me and my husband got together, we did cow-calf operation and stalkers before we had the house fire and all the things. Perspective kind of got into what we wanted to do together. So with that being said, I would say we more set stocked, but it was rotational grazing is what we thought it was. So we would just eat everything to the ground and then move to the next. I thought
kind of that rotational overgrazing that a lot of people
and so
do.
I thought that's what
and I've been guilty of that too.
Yeah. So I thought that's what rotational grazing was. So I in my head we were already doing it until I came here. But it's kind of funny. We had talked earlier. This is all the wrong things to do in farming is what our story has been. When we moved here, it was kind of, we'd been in a situation with a house fire. We've been in a camper for 6 months. A few houses fell through. So when we got here, we had never seen hot wire before. All of our fences at that time were hardwire. We bring all of our sheep, all of our horses, all of our donkeys, all of our cows. We just wanted to get into a home. And we brought them here, and one strand of high tensile fence. You can only imagine how terrible that that went for us. So I was sold out on it. I thought this is amazing, the grass, but at that time, really not understanding what rotational grazing was. As I watched every horse, every cow, every sheep we had run through this high tensile, tear everything down. I told my husband, I never want to see this stuff again. It's awful. Well, with that being said, as the year went on and you have a farm that has been rotationally grazed religiously for 25 or 32 years. Again, I don't know which number it was. But then you bring us in with all of our critters and set stock that farm for a year or two. Yeah. And I said, Ryan, I'm Marque, Ryan's my husband. And I said, Ryan, this isn't producing like it was. What's being done differently? Well, we're set stocking it. We didn't do the rotational grazes. And so our ultimate goal was to make the sheep part of our industry work. And so I went on an education binge for 3 years and really educated myself on how to do farming the right way. And so here we are. So I had never thought about the right way to do it because I didn't know what it was.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. To go back even before you got into rotational grazing and doing that, what led you to sheep?
So it's kind of a funny story. It's kind of a sad story that my family was like that, but we are generational women farmers. It's kind of a cool story. I've got aunts that just packed up one day and said adios to the kids and the husband and went to the hills to shepherd sheep and never came back. And my grandma specifically, my great grandma, I should say, she bought several farms down here in Oregon and Shannon and can't think of where Van Buren's at, but several counties around, and she paid for those with sheep. And so it's just been generationally down. Well, when I was farming and watching my family, the generation that I watched before me do it, I was like, I don't like this at all. Like, it's not a good situation. the sheep were just kind of do or die, take care of yourself. It was a wool industry back then, and we were
Oh,
very,
yeah.
very involved in that. But I always had kept around a small flock. Me and my husband did, because he was heavily into the stockers and like the cow-calf operation. We had a sawmill. I was heavy into the horse industry, running two totally different directions. But every night we'd come home and we had about 30 ewes. We could just sit on a hill, and it was our peace.
Oh,
So
yes.
after the
Yes.
house fire, perspective and priorities got put in place, and I said, why are we running so hard in so many different directions? We have a passion for the sheep. We know we can farm. Let's go hard for this industry together.
Oh, yeah.
And that's kind of how we got into the sheep. They've always been in the background. I mean, all the way through our whole lives. There's a thing behind me actually where my grandma herself won Farmer of the Year at Sedalia and stuff because of the sheep. But
Oh, yes.
so they've always been a part of our life, just not as
Yes.
heavy in my adult life as what they are right now.
Oh, yeah. And when did you all make that change to really focus on the sheep?
About 3 years ago. This is what not to do's in farming. So when we had first got married, we went pretty heavily into just the feedlot situation with the sheep and goats. We'd buy them,
Oh,
feed
yeah.
them up, get rid of them. Buy them when the market was low and sell them when it was hot. So then the horse industry, in my aspect, really took off, and we kind of got out of that. So for the next 7 years, I went heavy into the horse industry. And then so I said we had our small flock, but when we moved here, I said, let's go all in. We sold the stocker cattle, we sold our cattle farm, we sold everything except for them. And I called my husband and I said, tell your friend, and his name's Cotter, and he kind of lives down here, and he owns a sale barn in Salem, Arkansas. And we said, bring as many as you can. Wrong thing to do. So we ended up from the sale barn and from our own journey of just finding them out and 300 head of ewes from all walks of life.
Oh, boy.
I learned, I think, everything that there was to learn about a sheep, and then some with that. So about 3 years ago, we went all in with all the girls, and it's been a ride.
Well, just the aspect, if you want some experience, buy you some sale barn animals.
Yeah, and
They
300
they
head at the same time was, that was a
Yeah.
little extreme. Don't do what
Yeah.
we do. Yeah.
So what was your biggest takeaway from that initial flock and getting started on those huge numbers?
So when they all came, it was the fall. And the sheep themselves, I will say as a whole, were great. So
Oh, yeah.
it was just the learning experience. We were not rotationally grazing at that time. So they come here in the winter. We bought them in the fall. We did not breed any of those sheep for winter lambs. But it just so happens it was the coldest snap I think in the United States history. It really wasn't, but in that time it felt like it was.
Right.
We were sleeping in the barn. There was ewes that were, people said, well, how'd you end up with so many bottle babies? A first timer, you can give her time to bond with her baby. When it's negative 14 wind chill, I mean, and we were in a barn, but they didn't even have time to get their baby up and take care of them. Like if they weren't taking care of them in that moment, like you had to just take them because there's no heating lamps. We had that many. We didn't know when they were bred. I think that was the hardest part for us, was the not knowing, fighting all winter, when your ewes were having babies, when they weren't. So I'm not saying the sale barns are, a lot of people is like, they're the plague.
Well,
If you buy at certain times, you better be ready to manage them in the winter, not knowing what you're getting.
right. And you can just make that assumption, whatever. On our first flock, we bought like 35 ewes, and it came with some lambs, and they'd been running with a ram, and he's like, they're bred to lamb in November. Well, November came and went with no lambs.
Oh no.
No. So we got some winter lambs later on that year. But yeah, whatever you buy anticipate something else happening too, because
Exactly.
you just never know.
Exactly.
I know with our flock, we purchased it with the understanding the guy had bred them, raised them there, very naive about sheep.
Yeah.
I'd seen sheep or wool sheep in ag when I went through FFA and thought never. because I had dairy cows and they were so much easier than
Yes.
the sheep. They boxed those sheep and sheared them and trimmed them. It was like every day they were giving haircuts. It's
Yeah.
like, whoa, too
Yeah.
much work.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go to OSU, and I needed an elective class to graduate, and I took sheep science. And the professor there was like, a quarter of land, 160 acres, you can pay for with sheep. Now, that was long ago when we had the wool incentive. So it's always stuck in the back of my mind. Hey, that's kind of interesting. And hair sheep started getting popular. And I went up to Lincoln University in Missouri to a small ruminants deal and came home saying, we got to buy some sheep.
Yeah.
So we found this flock and bought them. And the guy says he raised them. They're good, registered and ram on them. Get them home. They don't lamb on time. And with hindsight, I can look at them and say, yeah, those were put together.
Yeah.
Some had dock tails, some
Yes.
didn't. You start looking at scrapie tags, they have different states of origin.
Yeah.
I'm like, how obvious does it have to be for me to miss
Yes.
that they were put together? Because at the time, I guess I was just so eager to get
Yeah.
some. But that's going to be some of the same issues. You go through a sale barn, you can get some decent animals there,
Yes,
but
you
you can
can.
also get some animals that have some problems.
Yes.
They're there for a reason.
And
Yeah.
I do say that to people. We kind of have a unique situation with the operation we have going as far as buying ewes out of the sale barn and things. But I tell people all the time, and I guess this is coming from the horse industry of maybe from driving hundreds of miles to look at a horse that somebody lied to me about.
Oh, yeah.
You can get it at someone's house just as bad as you can get it at a sale barn.
Well, and that's true.
And because when they run those flocks through, and that a lot of people think, oh, homegrown or home raised, typically they're not. They're put together, a lot of them. And
Right.
when you run them in as a bunch, you're not going in and checking every mouth, every foot, every bag, every
Right.
age. And so people really, every eye, people get hung up on the sale barns. And I'm not an advocate. Not everybody should go out and do them. But if you do have experience, you can get ripped off on someone's farm just the same as you can at a sale barn. Except for you have 6,000 chances to pick from versus somebody's 20 that you have to because they won't
Oh, yeah.
separate them.
Right. And the other thing about hair sheep, and you had been exposed to sheep more than I had, but the learning curve for sheep was much steeper
Yes.
than I thought it would be.
Yep.
I got them. I thought they were miniature cattle. I thought I can
No.
just work them through my cattle pens.
Mm-hmm.
No,
No.
that did not work. Does not work.
No, it does not. And I tell people all the time, the Lord put that sheep needed a shepherd so many times in the Bible because that is exactly what they need. When you get sheep, it is not just throw them out there. We feel like when we added the numbers, now this was this heightened, with the cattle market right now, but
Right.
we crunched the numbers and you can make more money per acre with sheep.
Yeah. I
But
have to
you
agree.
work for every penny that you get from them. You really do. They're not something that. Now, when we had our small flock of 30 on a big acreage, I think that it was great. We'd go out there in the evenings. There was days where we didn't see them, and everything was
Oh, yeah.
wonderful. But if you're going to start doing the intense rotational graze with high numbers, you have to check your stock. You've got to shepherd them because they were truly not meant to be in condensed areas like they are. They were in the hills and happy and going from ground to ground. I mean, if you watch
Oh,
them in the
yeah.
fields, they're scurrying everywhere and they would never stop. But
Oh,
we
yeah.
put them in these small areas. We make them eat the same grass, and you have to shepherd them.
And getting to that new farm, you've got this flock that you've already had some experience with. I assume at that point you've got them straightened out, doing them better. And you go to this new farm with high tinsel.
Yeah.
And what's your process there? Because, like you mentioned, the sheep didn't know it, so they didn't respect it.
Oh, it was a free-for-all. Like, I'm not sugarcoating
I
it.
could only imagine it.
So you have to keep in mind, I'm coming heavy from the horse industry at this time. I have 70 head of horses that we brought. And
Oh, wow.
at that time, we only had 30 head of sheep, maybe 50, and their lambs and things. So the sheep
yeah.
were not the issue. It was the horses tore down all the high tinsel.
Oh, I imagine so.
Come to find out that the people that owned it before us didn't even have it hooked up right. So you can only imagine they just took everything. So by choice, we really went back to just set stocking the whole farm because
Oh,
everything was tore
yes.
down. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
it was just,
Yeah.
and I looked at my husband and I said, I will never, ever use hot wire ever again. And now here we are with hot wire everywhere. But you know, when people are not educated, and that's why we strive so hard on our page to mentor and like just tell people the transparency truth of what we went through. If you're not educated, you can get yourself in some real miserable pickles with farming all
Oh,
the way
yeah.
around. And so that was a whole learning curve with that high tensile. Everything came down. We set stocked. It was a train wreck. And then we brought the sale barn ewes, and that was a train wreck. So for the first 2 years of our intense farming with these sheep has been quite the ride, to say the least.
So how did you go from that to starting to rotate them and manage the pastures better?
So in the moment when you're living it, you don't really see why you're going through what you're going through. But
Mm-hmm.
as I was crying in a bucket in my garage with 52 bottle lambs that winter, I
Oh,
found
man.
Big Tom Perkins and Cameron Meyerly
Oh,
on the Grazing
yes, the
Sheep podcast.
Grazing Sheep podcast.
And I listened to one of their episodes and I got hungry for it. And I just kept educating and maybe to the point where I drove myself crazy, but you almost have to. If you're going to make it in this industry at high numbers, you got to know what you're doing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how we got introduced into the grazing was through Tom and Cam kind of sitting there and explaining what they were doing, and I thought, well, that's nothing like that's nothing. I've never heard of this before.
Oh, yeah.
So that was an experience, and then we signed up for. My dad had actually got into farming, and he had not been in farming since I was a kid. Him and mom got divorced, and the family farm and things got sold, and he had gone into this rotational grazing, and he bought a farm that was completely wrecked. The guy had not done anything to it, ran horses on it. You know, horses set stocking are just rough on land.
Oh,
I think
yes.
for like 25 years. And he went to this grazing school, and he keeps coming back and talking about all this stuff. And I don't want to hear nothing he's got to say. He's my dad. I'm like, you don't even know.
Right.
And
I have kids. I
yeah.
understand.
Well,
And I have parents.
yeah, there you go. Well, I started seeing the changes that was on his property.
Oh,
And
yes.
that's about the time where like I found those podcasts and I started diving into it. And then I went to grazing school. But to see the changes that was made on his farm with his cattle and what they had going on was just unbelievable. So I wanted
Oh,
what
yeah.
they all had. I didn't want to live this life anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What grazing school did you go to?
It was through the state. It was just here in Howell County.
Oh, okay.
We were going to do the fencing projects and things like that, but I'm impatient. We didn't have time. We didn't have time to
Oh, yeah.
wait.
Wait
I
on
think
like
it's an
the equip.
amazing. Yes, it's an amazing program, and I encourage anybody, if you don't know, to go to grazing school because that's going to start making your brain work and ask those questions and what's available to me and things. We didn't wait for it, and it was only because I knew that we had made it to where we were by the good graces of God, and our sheep could not handle another year like what we'd been doing the last 2 years, and we couldn't
Oh,
either.
yeah.
It was
Oh, right. Yeah.
yeah. So
So grazing school was a big influence. Your dad was an
huge.
influence, however much you didn't want that influence.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, how else did you use the Grazing Sheep podcast to educate you? How else did you gain more knowledge about it?
So, well, when I would listen to them talk, and I know this sounds crazy, but we didn't sleep. It was insane when those ewes were having babies, and
Oh,
we moved here. We put all of our eggs in one basket, which is probably not the smart thing to do either. But so we had to make it work. So I would just listen to them all day long, and if they said something on the podcast that I didn't know what it was, I would Google it or type it into podcast, and I'd start listening to another podcast
oh
that would
yeah.
explain in depth of what that was. And then, I mean, it got to a point where I just messaged Tom and would be like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And what we got
Oh
going on,
yeah.
and that really helped out a lot. But just not furthering your education, because I'm going to tell funny about a sale barn owner. He had said that his sheep weren't doing very good, and he's bringing them to a sale. He owns a very large sale, and my husband was like, "Hey, you need to check their Framacha. What is that?" we have people in the industry who are just uneducated into what it really takes to manage and things. So if you don't act on what you hear somebody say and truly be hungry for it, further information, or just say, hey, I'm here to learn. What did you mean by that? Even if it makes you look silly.
Oh, yeah.
That's how we learn. And contacting other producers and just soundboarding off of each other, just like we're talking. If you said something, I'd be like, well, what do you mean by that? And you just learn and learn and learn.
Oh, yeah. That network you build can be so
Yes.
valuable.
Yes.
And I have to admit, I'm not great at that. I'm not
Yeah.
great about reaching out. I'm not great about meeting people and doing that.
Yeah.
Now, the podcast kind of drug me into it. So I talk to people all the time, all over the place, and have their numbers. And
Yeah.
it's a really nice benefit of the Grazing Grass podcast that I have all
yes.
these opportunities that if I have a question or something, I can contact them. And we've had a dialogue. So they're like, yeah, but a lot of people's out there willing to help.
Yeah, and
Just
I
got to
think
reach
that,
out.
yeah, and your Facebook page that you've created with all the grazers that can talk and ask questions, and it's so hard to ask any type of information this day and age in a safe place. And I say that because somebody will post something on the internet because I want to know what other people are thinking. So I do that a lot.
Right.
And I get a lot of, well, why don't you ask your vet? Why don't you just get tore down. And so for people who are trying to
You
learn, they get shut
do.
down instantly. So for what you guys have going on, I think that's beautiful to just make those connections and talk to people who are going to be transparent about what they have. And so that's why we got so passionate about our page and helping people, is because the industry is going down. The decline of farmers that are coming up is not there. So if we don't educate people, we're basically saving ourselves by educating them to get into the industry because
Right.
it's not going to be here. What are we going to do?
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to speak to that about the grazing grass community just for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm part of so many groups on Facebook, and the groups, you know, some of the groups you post something and people, rather than having a nice discussion, they tell you how dumb you are.
Yes.
And what are you thinking? And there's no, you know, criticism can be constructive or it can be destroying.
Absolutely.
And it's just destroying. And that's what I want in the grazing grass community. I want people to be able to ask those questions that someone else may say is stupid, but I don't want anyone to say they're stupid.
Yes.
I want us to support each other.
And
We're all on this journey together. And just because you think a question is stupid at your journey, point in your journey, doesn't mean it was at the point they are.
No.
And you know, if I'm not very smart, it takes me a long time to learn stuff. So
Same here.
you know, having those discussions, and I actually had a listener reach out to me and say, how do you have the community support each other so well? I said, I don't know. It's just an expectation
Yes.
that I put out there that we're helping each other. We're not coming across that anything's stupid. If someone asks a question,
Yes.
if you don't have something productive or to improve the conversation, then don't post it.
Exactly.
You can go somewhere else and post that stuff, but not in the
Yes.
grazing grass.
So we have so when I came from the horse industry, we had a page and it's called Restless Ranch, and we still do it. I think it's great. It's just slowed down with the sheep, getting them off. And that is one thing with the like yours, the grazing community page. We didn't tolerate it. If you were negative in 1 second, there was no argument back and forth. You were just gone.
Right.
Because these people are here to learn. We really catered to the beginners, and we've seen the need for it in that industry, just the same as this. And so there is no dumb question. I mean, if I would have got online and said, hey, I just bought 300 sale barn ewes, what do I do? Can you imagine the backlash that I would have got? Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Which would that backlash, any of it helped you out? No. You're there. You're not changing what's been done. You just need a path forward.
Yes.
You need more information to go forward. Yeah.
Yep. And I needed strong people to come alongside me. I needed a great vet. And I needed to be myself, educationally hungry, to make sure that what I was doing, if you tell me to do something, this is one thing I do find upsetting in this industry, is if somebody tells you to do something, you need to research to make sure that that is right. Don't just go home and do it to your flock, because you will find yourself in quite the pickle and say, well, so-and-so told me to. Well, for instance, we got in on that. I'll just be transparent. We lost a lot of stock over this. I did not research it. I'd always heard, hey, don't feed silage. If you do, there's stuff that could go wrong. We
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
know. We took the word off of a guy who bales hay for a living, does silage, different kinds. I mean, phenomenal people, but they didn't know sheep. But in my head, the hay guy's telling me this, I'm just going to do it. So we had all of these ewes and they were fixing to have babies and we've been feeding silage and they looked so stinking good. Me and my
Oh,
husband's out
yeah.
there like high-fiving like, wow, our flock looks amazing. And then I went out there one day and I noticed that there was like 3 on their way out. And I thought, well, what in the world is going on? We lost, I would say, almost 20 ewes. And I call my vet and thank the Lord we had found her. And she's just such an asset to our operation. But I'm bringing a load of ones that we're trying to do C-sections. It was just an awful situation.
Oh,
But
yes.
come to find out, they had bailed up a dead animal and our sheep got botulism. I
Oh,
did not
no.
know. I did not know, but that was a
Oh,
hard hit. And so now when somebody says something to me, I'm like, hey, this could potentially kill a lot of stuff. So I'm going to make sure that what they're saying aligns with what is
oh,
right
yeah.
because maybe they don't know sheep or maybe they're
Yeah.
not, maybe they have
Or
5 sheep,
yeah.
just different things for different people.
And their context is so important. I
Yes,
can say, we have 150 ewes out here, but if I'm running them on 500 acres, that's different than running them on much
exactly.
smaller acreage. So
Yes,
a lot of stuff there. Yeah.
yes.
You've mentioned your vet a couple times. How did you go about finding a vet to use and build that relationship?
So, first off, I see so many people online and I would ask a question and they'd say, well, ask your vet. So I'd ask my vet and they would say, I don't know. Or give them, this was my favorite, give them some safeguard.
Oh,
Well,
yes.
no, that's not. So they were so surface level. And we had some issues where that spring of our first lambing, we had pneumonia come in our herd.
Oh,
And
yes.
I didn't know what to do. We'd never had that in our other herd. Again, when we had a small flock of 30, everything was groovy. It was great. We didn't have any issues. And so when that happened, I really started seeking information. And I talk about this up on Salem a lot, but he really saved us in that of where he got a hold of a guy from Oklahoma and he sent us and saved us from that train wreck. Well, then I started thinking about how there was no one in our area that would really help you with the sheep. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
it was kind of funny. We had this girl move in and she took our horse industry in this area by storm. She is the most thorough, go to the ends of the earth to find out. Like she will truly, truly work endlessly for you. And one day
Oh,
I was
yes.
talking about sheep and she's been my vet for like years and years. And she said, I love sheep. I said, you work on sheep? She goes, oh yeah, I wrote all kinds of papers about them in high school and everything else. Life changed.
Oh,
Caitlin,
yes.
her name's Caitlin. She's down at Gainesville, Missouri, and she will do anything that she has to do. When we had those botulism, she had no idea what was going on, and we've went through so many different things with all those ewes of
Oh, yeah.
just different things you didn't even know existed. But she would get to the bottom of every single one of them. It wasn't a surface level thing. She's like, Marque, we're going to figure this out. It got to where we were working on such a consistent basis. And I don't want people to think that, oh, she just runs to the vet for everything. But when you don't have a mentor, you don't have anybody else to help you, there's no other outlets to turn, the internet's the worst place to go. Sometimes you
Yes.
sometimes you got to pay for it. And that's what we
Yeah.
did. We had to make that relationship. We had to pay to get those animals autopsies done. We had to pay to get them in. We had to pay for everything. But the money that we spent, we do get a lot of kickback because we were at the vet so much, but the money that we spent, now we don't do that. We are not at the vet every day. But for that year, we saved thousands and thousands of lives on our farm from those
Oh,
moments
yeah.
on. And she got to the point where she's like, hey, like on a Sunday, she's like, come down here. You got anything going on? And I said, no. She's like, bring a lamb and we're going to practice doing all this stuff on it that you need to know how to do, how to vein them, how to give
Oh,
IVs.
yes.
And I thought in that moment, what vet will work for you like that?
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
so truly, truly, she's an asset. She knows what she's talking about, the sheep industry. I cannot speak for other vets in our area or I just don't know a lot of them. But the ones that I have used, I will say that she's it. She's got it going on.
Oh, well, very good. That a vet can be a tremendous resource.
Oh, she truly is.
And wherever you are, you need to find a vet that understands what you're doing, that works with you.
Yeah. And if she doesn't know, she's not too proud to say, when the botulism thing's going on, she's like, Marque, I don't know what we're dealing with here. It could be so many things, but I'm going to reach out to all these different people. We're going to get to the bottom of it. And it was just reassuring to know that you had somebody who was just like, hey, man,
on your side.
We'll figure this out together. I don't know, but I'm going to find the answer. So I really like that in her as well.
Right. Very good.
Yeah.
Back to your sheep and your farm and high tensile fence. What do you all use for fencing now?
So we went ahead and did just polywire. We have 5 strands up, and those are set. So we have those set right now. Might be something where we switch in the future. I want everybody to know we are going to hardwire, because my feelings about hot wire have never changed. It's just what we had to do in the moment. So it works well. It keeps them in. I really don't have complaints about it. It's just, for us, the upkeep of it, because where we have to keep those so low on the ground, you either have to spray, mow, weed eat. And I did not want to spray. And so I have weed eated my life away.
Oh, yes.
And so, but that's what we have right now, is just the polywire.
Yeah. When you replace that with a permanent fence, are you going to go with woven wire, or you have a different plan?
So I call our farm the coat of many colors, because when we started on our perimeter, we just added barbed wire because we needed something to go up quickly. And there was already so many strands. And again, coming from the situation that we were in, we just wanted to get into a home. It was very displacing to have a house fire and not have a place,
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, we just put up barbed wire on the outside perimeters, which we are going to go around and put up woven wire, because the breed of sheep that we're going to be running and raising here, we can't take a chance. And then on the outside, we're going to be doing woven wire and high tensile 3 strands, just to make sure nothing comes in.
Oh, yeah.
On the inside, we have been using, at the 24-inch mark, we've been using woven, but it's only 24 inches tall.
Oh, yes.
So we use that on the bottom, but where they can get up and scrape, we've been putting barb, because they wreck the woven. And so that's short enough, it stays below their shoulder line, and they don't want to rub on the barb. And so it kind of works out, because when we had our other farm, we had woven. They had it lean, brand new. They just rub and rub and rub. And so we have found that the 24-inch with the barbed wire on top is kind of what we want to go with. But on the outside perimeter, we will be doing the tall. We won't do the 24-inch.
Oh, yeah. And we've got some barbed wire fences we've added, is 5 wire, and now it's 7 or 8 because we've added more wire.
Yeah.
Of course, if there's a dip in the ground there, you got to be aware of that, or the sheep will find it. And once they find it, it's all over.
They tell all their friends. Yeah.
They do. And then you've got 100 head of sheep going through a hole made for one lamb.
Yep.
And they remember it.
They do.
They're interesting, and they're not the smartest animals, a lot of people would say, but they know exactly where they've gotten out in the past.
Oh, for sure.
And they will go straight to that spot. It doesn't matter how many other pastures there are. They know exactly where to go.
Oh, for sure.
And so we also have some woven wire. We've got some with 4x4, and we've also got some goat woven wire. So the stays are, 12 inches, 15 inches apart. And like you said, we ran a hot wire on the inside of some of that to keep them from rubbing on it, but we haven't done it all. And I have the hot wire on this place down right now. But cattle, sheep, they are all so rough on woven wire because they just want to rub on it.
Yes. Yep. It is disheartening when you put up brand new woven wire and look out there and they have a big old waller spot in it.
Yes. So with your rotations today, you're doing daily rotations?
Yes. So we do daily rotations. Right now we have them on, I would say, an acre to acre and a half.
Oh, yeah.
I was actually listening to the podcast with Ricky not too long ago, and she was talking about insurance fields.
Oh,
So,
I love the concept of
yes.
insurance fields. I
And
said it on the podcast.
yes. So that's kind of what we had going on. We've only used, I would say, a fourth, maybe half of our farm. And
Oh,
we
yeah.
we have been doing it. We really do have a grass farm, and that contributes back to the how long that this place has been rotationally grazed. And right now they're on an acre and a half. But when we get our hardwire up, we're going to break that down again with polywire because there was
Oh, yeah.
just so much. And I know we want to leave behind an immense amount, but it was just overabundance, and our whole farm was getting away from us. And so, and we also want, with the sheep, as long as you can draw it out, the better. So we don't want them to
Oh,
come
yeah.
back. We want as many paddocks as we can on this farm. But if I told my
Right.
husband right now, honey, you got to build another set of breakups with the hot wire, I might not be here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's done.
Does Ryan help a lot on the farm, or is it mainly you doing it?
So it has been basically me, and I've got 3 girls down here. My son, we we do a lot of it, but he does work off farm, so he's gone a few days, but he recently changed jobs because it just got too much for us. Yeah,
Oh,
lambing
yeah.
season with the numbers that we have now, we've increased since those 300 cell barn ewes that we've had, and it's just gotten too much for just me and the kids. So
Oh,
he
yeah.
now is here, and yeah, we're able
Well,
to
very
farm
good.
together a lot more now.
Yeah. Which can be great or cannot be great. Just
We
depends
work
on.
well
We'll
together.
see how your all's
Yeah.
relationship goes with
Yep.
that.
Yeah, we even when we had the stalkers and the horses and stuff, we were together quite a bit working in that. We might not have been together, but
Right.
we work well. So we already knew that
Well,
was an option
good,
for us.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank the Lord.
With yours lambing, what time of year are you lambing your sheep?
So that has been drastically changed. Obviously, everybody would like to have those lambs ready to go right in the middle of winter. I don't know how it is other places, but our sweet spot, the consistency and the highest points, is the dead of winter here because nobody can get their animals to breed in the summertime. So
Oh,
that
yeah.
would be ideal for us. And I think that's going to be an option. I'm super excited, which we'll talk about the breed of sheep that we have going on here in a little bit. But
Yes.
with them, you're getting a weaning lamb that is of market weight. Around here is about 60 pounds is your sweet spot. Those lambs are here and gone in 8 weeks. So that has changed everything for us because typically
Oh,
before
yeah.
we were just sitting there and raising these things for 4 and 5 months, waiting on the market, and basing it around that. And so, I'm hoping that from here on out, we'll be breeding this time of year, lambing late fall, and having those babies ready to go right in that perfect market.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, lambing late fall, then you're selling lambs in that early
Mm.
spring or late winter
Yep.
window. That's really nice.
February would be perfect to
Oh,
sell.
yeah.
In our area. I don't know what other, areas around, but that's our good spot for that.
Oh, yeah. Very good. And what size lamb are you shooting for at that point?
So at that point, if they weighed anywhere from 60 to 65 pounds, you really start to lose money on them. You're just kind of feeding them for free past that. And in our area,
Right.
because we
Yeah.
sell directly to the dinner table, basically. They want those, and I tell people think of it as like Thanksgiving dinner. If they want a turkey, they can eat. You don't want a turkey your family's gonna have to eat on for 5 weeks.
Yeah,
You want it
right,
then
right.
cook it for that dinner, and that's kind of where our market is in this area.
Yeah. Are you all marketing them through a sale barn, or are you doing direct to consumer? Obviously, with your numbers, that'd be a lot of direct to consumer.
Yeah. So we have always marketed to the sale barn. Now, with what we have going on, I've got a good friend down in Mississippi. His name's Russell Schmidt. He is the lead on our meat deal of what we've got going on with the Australians and with their, I don't want to talk too much about them because I know we're going to go into a segment, but their meat quality is so much different than any other lamb. So we will be doing quite a bit. Our regular crossbreeds that we are phasing out of, those will go to just the meat market, but this higher end quality, those will be going direct to consumers.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and switch to the overgrazing section. In the overgrazing section, we take a deeper dive in some aspect of your operation. At Redmond, we know that you thrive when your animals do. That's why it's essential to fill the gaps in your herd's nutrition with the minerals that they need. Made by nature, our ancient mineral salt and conditioner clay are the catalyst in optimizing the nutrients your animals get from their forage. Unaltered and unrefined, our minerals have the natural balance and proportion that your animals prefer. This gives your herd the ability to naturally regulate their mineral consumption as they graze. Our minerals won't just help you improve the health of your animals, but will also help you naturally build soil fertility so you can grow more nutrient-dense pasture year after year. Nourish your animals, your soil, and your life with Redmond. Learn more at redmondagriculture.com. For the overgrazing section, we're going to focus on the breed of sheep you're grazing. So why don't you introduce our audience to the breed you're using?
So we have always ran Katahdin Dorper crosses, and when this switched from, and I'm a wool girl at heart. That's what I grew up with. So I always got some of them in there, you know.
Oh,
My
yeah.
husband is not happy about it come sharing time, but I love
I'm
to look
sure.
at them. It's where your roots are. And
Oh, yeah.
so anyway, we've always had a little bit of wool in there somewhere, but we've always done Katahdin Dorper crosses. So that was our base herd of the 30 to 50 that we had, and we always just ran for fun. And then when we started diving into this, I needed the numbers. We needed this to work. Everything else is off the table. So we have to have the biggest and the baddest meat market lamb in the country. So what does everybody want? They want something that's here and gone the fastest they can because lambs die. They want the least amount of input, and they want a healthy, all well-rounded lamb that you don't have to just put so much time and investment into. So we started with the Dorper Katahdins. We just had typically cotter bias, the best rams that came through the sale barn. And that's just kind of all what we used. And then whenever I got listening to Tom and Cam about NSIP, and then I think I can't think of the guy they always have on there, but he started talking about whenever he had bought a ram that was NSIP and just using just commercial rams. And it added 7 pounds, because he had the numbers, it added 7 pounds of lamb onto every lamb he raised. And I added that up and I was like, we're losing thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars truly just by not investing in a good ram. That phase gone. So then we take the next step up and we go get those registered animals and the ones that had numbers and all the things. Texels, I tried it all.
Oh, yeah. And you'd mentioned Sedalia earlier. Did you go to that auction?
Yes. Yep. So we went to I just like to know what's in the industry. My husband was like, why are we going to the Midwest Ram Sale? I said, because I want to know what's going on. I want to know. You have to know if you're in it. I'll watch sales all the time because I want to be able to know for a fact when I'm talking to somebody what I'm talking about. So I think it's so important for us to do our research and to be able to know, because I got told a lot of bad misinformation. I don't want to do that to someone else.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, with that being said, we had went up and we bought what I thought was these are the guys we're fixing to stock it to, these lambs. And you see all these things online. And I do understand that a lot of people are running wool up north and stuff. And so you got to take that in consideration. But I wanted the wool numbers and growth, but I want it in a hair sheep. Where would we find that? I don't know. So we went on the hunt for it. When we were in the middle of this, so this is our first lamb crop with all of our good rams, and we got Texels in there, and it's fixing to happen for us. And then I had been tracking the Australian whites for 3 years. And just couldn't get my hands on them. And whenever a guy that I know locally, he literally is in the town that I grew up in, posted that he had Australian white ewes, I thought, there's no way. And so I had researched them so much that if it was one I could see and know. So I told my husband, I said, we have got to go over there and see what's going on. Come to find out, he had bought 2 rams off of the first batch that came over here whenever they first came back years ago. And he had kept those rams and he had been breeding and breeding and breeding. And when I seen those ewes, my heart started thumping. I thought, there's no way. There's no way that this is the real deal. Well, it was. The first batch we brought back was 60 of them, and we brought them back with the ram. He didn't want to sell them all. And it almost made me sick to my stomach because before that, he had sold, I think, 150 or 200. I didn't know that they were really that, so I just kind of brushed them off, and he took them to a sale barn. Those good ewes got sent to slaughter, but it's okay. But anyway, so we brought home the 60, and they were due the same week as ours. So I was like, this is perfect. When those ewes, so that winter that we went through with them, and these are all just percentage ewes, these are not full bloods. When all these percentage ewes went through, I noticed that we were having to feed and keep these other ones up and going. When these Australians they'd get over there and eat junk like a goat, and they were 3 times the size. I mean, they were just massive. And I was like, that is so. Yes. So that's the first thing I noticed about them. The second thing was when our ewes started laying down to have babies, we can't take a chance on, we have done pasture lambing before, and we still do, but we also bring them up in a jug for 2 to 3 days just to get those lambs up and going. That way they're healthy and we don't want to lose anything. Those Australians would hit the ground, and I go through and nip and dip everybody, give them their shot and make sure ear tags, all of the things are good. I was physically running as fast as I could. I know this sounds terrible, but it's the only way I could catch them. I'd have to kick their back feet out from underneath them as newborns. One of them had afterbirth on it. I'm like, this has got to be a joke. And we had 0% death loss on those percentage ewes. Lambs. Yes. And I thought that is incredible. Insane. Like, to fathom a sheep that is pasture birthing will get up and run, like to the point where an adult has to chase them and not have any death loss. Okay, so that was the first 60, and I thought, this is kind of crazy. I didn't get out there and weigh any of them. We have a newborn and a toddler, and so that was a whole experience doing all that by myself with them. Yes. So we didn't weigh any of them when they were born. But in 8 weeks, those higher percentage lambs, we had an oopsie. We missed a ram lamb that had bred some ewes, and they had lambs back in December, January. We had pulled them off when these lambs started being born and put them on full feed. Those lambs that were born the day that so they were 4 or 5 months old, those Australian whites were here and gone, weighing 55 to 67 pounds, and went on the same trailer and never had a bite of grain. Ever. Oh, yes. They were out there fighting with 600 other animals on the same acreage, bite for bite. I was just blown away. And those were our Texel ram, influenced lambs. Those were the Dorper, those were the Katahdins, those were everybody. And those Australian whites, and I told my husband, I said, those lambs were 8 weeks old, never had a bite of grain. We didn't even vaccinate them yet. Just off mom's milk and grass, just left here in 8 weeks. And for a farmer, and that's one thing when I talk to people, they're like, you're just trying to sell something. We don't have anything to sell. We're running our numbers up to sky's the limit on how many thousands we will run. I'm just so excited for the commercial farmer that we're finally going to get a product that's going to work for us, and we're going to make money.
What kind of lambing percentage did you have with those Australian whites?
So a lot of people say that they're only singles, and we have to think about where they're coming from. And I have not myself heard anybody say this, so this is just strictly what Marque has observed. Oh, okay. Over there, you have to think about the large numbers. They're running thousands of sheep. These are not just little. They think we're just small timers if you have 2,000 sheep, here. Right. They want a lamb that will get up and go to work and stay with the mom, and that they don't have to babysit. And so I see why they are more apt to do the singles, but we also have to think, if we have twins that are weaning off at 30 to 40 pounds, and then we're having to feed them for months, if we have an animal that's here and gone, my purebred Australian that is coming up here, he's one that we bought, and I bought all the other ones at adult age. So for instance, he was born, and I know he's on a grass-fed. I bought him from Russell down there, and he does all grass, no grain, everything. At 8 weeks old, he weighed 81 pounds. At 9 weeks and 2 days, he weighed 87 pounds. So if we have a single that is going to make weight of 2 twins, and we have to think about their fertility rate, these are animals that will lay down and have a baby every 8 months. Because these rams will get out here and work, and when you would ask about my breeding dates, they're out here working the herd. It's July. There's no quit in them because they were raised in that environment of the heat. they don't have a problem with it like our animals do. So what we seen in them was, now the higher percentage ewes, we did start seeing a few more singles. But I
Oh, yeah.
also have to tell you that the animals that we bought, they'd used the same 2 rams on this flock for 5 years. So
Oh.
maybe we seen some inbreeding that's a little bit too much inbreeding.
Maybe so, yeah.
So I can't really speak to that as
Right.
far as how many they're having and things, but we will know next year for sure, because we're going to be lambing out. We have stumbled into a deal where we are going to have a large number of embryos that will be born here, and then we're going to have purebreds that'll be having babies. So I'll be able to next year give people a better idea of what we've seen out of that.
We started with a mainly Katahdin-based ewe flock. There were some black bellies in there, some mixed, but mainly Katahdins. We've kept it as Katahdins till last year, and we put a Dorper ram on them. And the Dorper ram was nothing special.
Yeah.
I was watching Craigslist looking for a Dorper ram, and finally found one over in the edge of Arkansas. And I drove over there, and I get over there, and I was disappointed looking at him. But I thought, I want one, so I bought him and used him.
Right.
Super impressed with those Dorper Katahdin cross lambs for us. In fact, I went and I found another Dorper ram that is built really nice.
Yes.
So he's a step up from that Dorper ram we got last year. So I'm really looking forward to that. But it sounds like to me from you that your Australian Shepherds are putting the Dorper Katahdin crosses to shame.
Yes. And so I want people to know, again, we don't have a dog in this fight as far as selling anything. We don't have anything to sell. Now, I can point you to producers that do, and ones that do of quality. I'm just saying that we have tried the Dorpers. We've tried the Texels. We've tried the Katahdins. I got into a whole Romanoff thing just for multiple numbers. That was a nightmare.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, we've done the wool. We've just done a variety of breeds that matter to people. And what we have seen is less issues and better lambs than what we could have ever had with the other ones. And it's not that we're just saying that. No, we've lived that in a high number of animals. That's what we're seeing has worked the best for us.
And I know, getting ready for this episode, I did a little bit of research on Australian whites. Get that spit out. On Australian whites. And I was very impressed by the pictures I've seen. They look like they have really good carcasses and better size than what we're seeing with a lot of the other hair sheep.
And that is one thing that I do like about them from what I'm seeing as a producer standpoint. We all want that 900-pound cow that raises a calf bigger than her, you know.
Right. If she'll wean a 1,000-pound calf, I'd be happy.
Yes. And so, exactly. So that's what we're seeing with these Australians, is that they're not these big old monster sheep. They are just little workers, and they want to do a job. When people come out here, they're like, that's as big as the rams are?
Oh, yeah.
But, hey, they explode to 80 pounds. So it's just pretty incredible all the way around. And the meat qualities, and that's something that's really going to change the industry. In our last meeting, they announced that the Australian whites will be the first sheep that is certified like Black Angus and Wagyu and everything else. So that's incredible. There's going to be a huge demand for them, and that is something that when they were doing the design of the breed, they didn't plan for. And so all the numbers, all the data, everything out of these sheep is not just something that Graham is saying. So Graham, and he's the original founder at Taddykel, he has actually taken them to the universities, put them out, took the meat off of them, tested everything. And the Wagyu is, I think, a 32 or something. These Australians have a lower melting point than them. And they're coming along with the same omegas and aminos and things as fish. Think about all the people that have high cholesterol that are going to be able to eat a burger again. I mean, it's incredible what they're going to do. And they don't have, I personally am not a lamb fan because I don't like the wang on the end of it. It's kind of just a different taste. They do not have that. So even on the F1 crosses, that stout lamb taste is dissolving away. And so I have not ate a purebred yet because they're too expensive.
Right.
But I'm hoping to get a hold of some of that soon.
Oh, yeah. Now, Australian whites breed developed in Australia.
Hmm.
Whereabouts in Australia? Because you've got a huge environmental difference. Were they in the drier area? Were they in the more tropical areas?
So I do not know anything about
Oh, okay.
Australia, but I do know that they have been all over the world. And Graham talks about that in so many different things about how they had to perform in all these different environments. So wherever they are, they have been thriving.
So how's parasites with them?
So far, the parasites we have not had an issue with.
Oh, yeah.
The group that we brought, it's like we went back and got 150 of those ewes just recently. And I will say that when we brought them here, a lot of people say don't worm anything. We went ahead and worm anything that comes on our property because we don't want to deal with anything,
Oh, yeah.
as far as what they're bringing in and whatnot. All their eyes were cherry red. And so far out here, I was worried about it because you take ewes that they were running over hundreds of acres and then bring them here and put them on a condensed area. But the lambs, everybody's been good. So we haven't had any issues out of them. And the
Oh, yeah.
babies or anything like that, they've done really, really well for us. So long term, I'll let you guys know if we run into any issues. But so far, they've been really well.
Oh, very good. You mentioned a little bit ago about the mature size. What is the mature weight on a ewe and a lamb?
So
Ewe and a ram.
So the ewes are 150 to 170, but I have not seen any of ours that are that big.
Oh,
They
yeah.
seem to be around the 120 to 150. I mean, she'd have to be a whopper, but I think where the weight comes from is the meat. So they're
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
squatty, but they're really, really thick. And the
Yeah.
rams, I've heard they get up to 250, but like I said, ours are not that big. I need to weigh them. They just don't. You see some of those Katahdins that they get so tall and all the
Right.
things, but they kind of remind me, which they are kind of made up of Texel, but they kind of remind me of Texel of just like they're just real bulldoggy and just really nice. But
Oh, yeah.
But you don't have to worry about the broad shoulders and things when they're lambing because they come out like little bricks. They are so thick all the way through. On the Texels, they have the head and they have the big shoulders, and that's where we've gotten into some trouble on those when we lamb those out. But the Australians, they just, no matter how big they are, they just come right out
Oh,
with no
yes.
issues. So,
Yeah.
so that on the commercial side of it, where you don't have to babysit them, even though they're having big, healthy lambs.
Oh, yeah.
And their lambs have been
Yeah.
bigger than what any of our other ones have been, but
Outside the color
they
difference.
have them
'cause-
easy because they're just uniformed all the way down. Hmm.
When you're talking Australian white, you're talking a white sheep.
Yeah.
When you talk Dorpers, they've got the black head. There's white Dorpers as well.
Yeah.
But outside the color, if you're looking at a Dorper and you're looking at an Australian white, how would you tell them apart?
I'm sure if you've looked them up online, you're going to really see those facial features. They have black points, black eyes, black noses. They almost look, if you look at a sheep and it looks like a Bramer cow, you know it's Australian. They just have that really nice, unique look about them. Their ears kind of set down. And they always have, it seems like, those black marks under their eyes. They just really, that's the way I've been telling people, they just look like a little Bramer cow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so that is something that I'm glad we kind of went into because people really need to be careful out there. And when the breed got brought over the first time, and this is the second outcoming, I would say, of the Australians. When the breed got brought over the first time, there was a lot of scamming. So when they breed over a white ewe, so if you got an Australian and bred it over a Katahdin, those F1s come out and you're like, holy cow, it looks like an Australian. They stamp their babies so strongly that people see that look that you see online of, the real Bramery look and the black points, and they think, oh, that's an Australian. No, you really, DNA is going to be the way to go in this. And right now it's not so heavy, but the breeders that are going to stay long term are going to be already started this. We actually took our rams and DNA verified everything, but people cannot go out and pay a lot of money for an F1 thinking it's a purebred. So you say you spend $2,500 and you bought a F1. You breed it back to your ewes, you're getting Katahdin. There's no growth rate. All you're seeing is that stamped look on them. It's so uniformity, and you think, I just spent $2,500 for nothing.
Oh,
well, you got scammed. So that is going to be a huge, huge, huge thing. And I cannot bring enough awareness to people that you have got to know true breeders, who they are, and DNA. And you might not get as many breeders again right now that have been DNA verifying because we're just starting to do this in the United States. But it's too much money to waste for us commercial breeders if it's not going to perform like one should.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And the percentage ones, you also have to think, I would never, I know that people are going to have to because they're just so expensive and there's not very many of them just to get those front genetics in before the abundance of the rams come over. But you have got to make sure they're higher percentages. Otherwise, they're just, the performance is not going to be there for you. But on those higher performance ones, just like our percentage ewes, 8 weeks and you got a lamb that's here and gone, that's great. But if you get an F1 or F2, you're really backing them back down into more of a Katahdin or Dorper or whatever they're crossed with. And you're not going to see those numbers go up.
Yeah, I know, just talking about that time frame, the last 2 years we've lambed out a portion of our flock in February with the remainder lambing in May. But those February ones, if the weather cooperates on lambing, it is so nice because I'm selling them straight off the ewe in May.
Yes.
And I don't have that extended time. It's before hot weather gets here.
Yes.
So I'm not worried about parasites as bad with them because they're here and they're gone. So there's lots of appeal to me for that added weight in that short period of time to get them on the ground and get them out.
Yeah, and so what we'll see with those, and this is not just something that I am taking for word over here in the United States. I'm a get it from the source of the mouth kind of girl. So I've been talking to people in Australia. They're leaving, which they don't wean as early as what we do. They're more international, but at 55 pounds, they hit that in 6 weeks. So you're going to lamb in February, and those lambs are going to be gone 1st of April, mid-February, whichever. And those are not even lambs that are performing on grain. That is grass-based only.
Oh, yeah.
So really and truly, if you start putting a little grain out there to them, are you going to see a lamb for a producer that could be gone in a month? Now, it's going to take some time to get to these purebred numbers of what we need to in the United States. But in the end of this game, when the news wore off, every producer, I believe, will have to move to an Australian white because they cannot afford not to. How do you put a number down on missing 2 to 3 months that you didn't have that animal here? No vaccinations, no grain, no input. It's not just the fact that they're finishing sooner, but it's what they don't have to have in comparison to other breeds and how fast they're leaving. What is the number on that? And for us in our commercial, we can't afford anything else. And that's, when I came home, I actually got in the car. I was like, I want to see firsthand people who are breeding these. So I took 3, that's how determined I was. I took 3 little girls and went on a 3-day round trip and toured farms. And when we left there, I called my husband and I said, load every single ram that we have up in that trailer. I've seen it. I believe it. Because I'm looking around these farms looking for the creep feeders. Where are they at? What's going on here? And there's none. And their farms were flat. I mean, there was barns. We was in them. They just weren't there. And I was like, how do you... It's unbelievable until you experience it. And we've experienced it. And we sold everything else and went all out into it.
Oh, very good. For Australian whites, is there a breed association?
Yes. So there is 2 breed associations in the United States. And the AAWSBA is the only association that is backed by Graham Gilmore himself in Tattykell in Australia. He sends us embryos over. He gets on Zoom meetings, which is so nice that we can actually sit there and have a conversation with him about our questions and not just getting it from anybody else. So if you're not a member, even if you do not have Australian whites, I think it would be wise for you to just go ahead. I think it's $35 to become a member. Get on those Zoom calls. Start listening to what's going on. Not only that, but how cool is it that these are going to be the top producing sheep in the United States in the industry? There's no doubt about it. But that you could be on the forefront of something so cool.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, sometimes whenever we get on the Zoom calls, there's like 10, 20 people to log in. So there's just not that many in the United States. But you get to be a part of something that's going to work. Everything's already established in the world. This is something new and it's exciting and It's just something that's going to change the industry. So why not get on there and just listen to those Zoom meetings, talk to other producers, and see what could be available to you?
Right. And you mentioned there's Zoom meetings available through the association.
Mm-hmm.
Does the association sponsor any sales or field days, or is this too early for that?
Not it right now. I know that the other association does, but I think that as we get going, we will. I know we will. I've already talked to several people. We got some barns going up. It's an exciting time around here, feeding barns, stud barns, all the things. So next year when we have our farm completely ready to go, we want people to come here, see them. We already have people that come, and I'm just like, we had a tornado come through. Don't mind the mess. But
Yes.
we really want to open our doors and say, hey, come and see. And not just for the farmer that's got 5 and wants registered stock. I'm talking to the big producers. Come and see what's really going on here. Come and see what we have bite for bite. And that's the thing. When you have animals competing bite for bite, sometimes some fall out, sometimes this and that. But I have 2 pins out here of my bottom end of the Australian whites and my bottom end of the Dorper Katahdins that we raised, and I set them side by side so people can see this is the bottom end, and they're like, oh my goodness.
Oh, yes.
So to see it truly and know what you're looking at, there's no hiding it. Our whole farm's open. You can see everything is going to be a huge game changer. So I hope that they start doing those field days, but if not, we will.
Oh, yeah. Very good. Before we move off of the Australian whites, is there anything else you want to add about the breed specifically before we talk about your all's future?
Yeah, I just think that all the way around, we don't have the feed issues, the breeding every 8 months, the fact that these guys are going to get up and go to work for us in the summertime is going to be a game changer. The meat industry, when they start rolling out these higher end meat qualities and things like that, it's going to give the producer another outlet. It's going to open up the door to more customers. We're just going to have more options as we go. And the fact that they're shedding the black feet that they put on and they stand up, they're just an all around animal with less production cost. I just do not see the downside of them in what we have going on. And I think that people need to get out and start researching and really see the only downside, and this is something I would like to bring to light, the only downside, and don't get disheartened in this because I know that I have chased them for so long and wasn't able to get my hands on them. Everybody is trying so hard to get them into the industry and to make more available to us. They have to understand that these embryos that are coming, embryo work is hard enough. And so a lot of times it doesn't work. So you're looking at 50-50 best chance. They're still trying to grow their herds. And with that being said, I think people are getting frustrated because they're not available. It's coming. This next year is going to be the best year for anybody to get. But with that being said, don't lose hope. There's embryo routes. I know people are going to start doing stud fees. There's going to be so many different options available to get a hold of them. And don't be like us. I should have jumped on this gravy train 3 years ago, and I wasted so much time. And I wish I would have done it then.
Yeah. Kind of like Southpaws are pretty popular in the cattle world right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I had looked at some, I don't know, 2010, 2011, early on, I'd found some. I looked at them and I decided, I just don't know.
Yeah.
And had I had the foresight, I would have changed that decision and we'd be in a different place.
Well, you're like me. You always get in on the tail end of everything. People ask us, why don't you get in the Highlanders? I was like, because as soon as we do, they tank. Everything we've ever done is that way. But so I say to you, this is the first time where we can actually be in the forefront of something, and it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, very good. You mentioned a couple of times 8-month lambing. Are you all doing accelerated lambing?
We will be doing accelerated lambing. When you have an animal that keeps the body condition, and I share a lot on our page, like these ewes out here, these percentage ones. We actually, last Sunday, sold our last of the Katahdin Dorper crosses, and we just said we're taking a chance and we're only going to percentage Australian. So they're out here having these babies right now, twins, and look just as big and beautiful like they never had. And I know that a lot of people will say, well, my Katahdin or my Dorper do this. I do believe that there are animals out there that look as good, can maybe compete in the same aspect, but they're not commercial farmers out here with 600 head fighting. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
yeah.
These are
Right.
doing that in such a big scale where they really are having to perform at their top. We just have not found a consistent basis of every single one of those ewes is exactly the same. The inconsistency with the Dorper Katahdin crosses is all over the place. The quantity,
Oh, yeah.
like, so I'm not
Yeah.
going to say we didn't have just a few that perform like this, because we do have a Katahdin that lays down and has a baby every 8 months. She's amazing. But that's one in all of the time I've known this,
Oh,
that
yeah.
it will do it
Yeah.
without assistance or cedars or anything like that. So with that being said, these ewes, when they're weaning off these lambs at 6 and 8 weeks, their body condition is peak. So you take that lamb off of them, let them go, they're breeding right back, and you got
Oh,
another
yeah.
lamb on the ground. And even if, and this kind of goes back to that single we had talked about, because a lot of people do say the Australians, but if she raises you every 8 months, an 81 pounder in 6 to 8 weeks, I don't know a Katahdin Dorper that can raise twins that will do that for you,
Oh,
at that
yeah.
weight, because most of the time you
Right.
have to rear them, you have to wean them, you got to feed them, all the things. I'm not saying there's not animals out there that will perform great, but for us, this is just our experience.
Yeah, it's working really well for you.
Yeah, it is.
And that leads us into our next question. What's the future hold for your old farm?
So we have a lot of big things going on right now. I'm so excited. We have culled the last of our ewes. We had an opportunity with the solar farms down in Texas called and said,
Oh,
hey, what do you got? And I told my husband, I said, this is our opportunity. Let them go at one whack. Everything we've got that we don't want, if it looks at us sideways, crossways, didn't perform, it's gone.
right.
So we got rid of those. And it's kind of crazy. I always talk about how in the moment you don't really know what's coming, but God has a plan all the way. Because as soon as we got those out, we got a call, and now we have, I think, 2 different flocks coming that are going to be carrying purebred embryos. We're going to be lambing these out for another operation, and while growing our own. And as with the fire that we had, we're not obligated to anything. Ground's ground to us, and we're not stuck here. We're going to use this farm to the best of our ability, and we're just going to keep going. We love sheep. My
Oh, yeah.
husband, we're going to, after we get this set down, because, sheep need shepherd, then we're going to get back into the cattle industry. But this is our baby.
Oh, yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we really don't have a number. I mean, I'd do 20,000, but I know he'll shut me down at some point.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So, you got to have both sides, give and take.
You do. If I did everything I wanted to do, I wouldn't be good at anything. And maybe I'm
No.
not. But my wife really helps me focus
Yes.
on what I should be doing as
Yep.
opposed to just, oh, let's try this. What about this? Hey, that's a good idea.
I've had to really focus myself down when we started this, because I was that person. I was all over the
Oh,
place with
yeah.
the horses, doing the sheep, doing the cattle. And that's why whenever the fire, we're like, nope, we're going to put all of our energy into this one thing. So
Oh,
for
yeah.
3 years, I've not got out of the box. I'm staying in it.
Oh, very
Yep.
good
Yep.
job.
3 years
Yeah.
I've got in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Marque, let's move to the famous 4 questions. Same 4 questions we ask of all of our guests. For today's sponsor, we want to talk about the Grazing Grass Resources. We just launched it, and it is built by graziers for graziers. It's a listing, it's a directory, it's your go-to spot to find farms, consultants, books, podcasts, tools, and more, all focused on grass-based and regenerative livestock production. Even better, you can submit your own listing there for free. That way we keep it practical, useful, and a community. Whether you've got a service to share, a favorite Facebook group, or a farm folks should know about, head over and add it. You can check it out at grazinggrassresources.com or just at our main website, grazinggrass.com, and click on resources. I look forward to seeing you over there, and I look forward to seeing your listing there. Our first question, what's your favorite grazing grass related book or resource?
So I listen to you ask this question on all the podcasts, and I always feel a little, because books, I love to read. And I have sat down and read several, like Greg Judy and stuff. I really do like his books and whatnot. And he's local to us, so it kind of is nice to bounce off. but I never stop like moving. And so to actually read a book is hard. I listen to podcasts galore. I listen to
Oh,
YouTubes.
yes.
There's some mornings where I'll wake up and just type in sheep and just whatever pops up, I'm just listening. Some things I learn that I love, some things I'm like, that never in a million years would do that. But I think in
Oh, yeah.
everything that we chase and do, as long as it's educational, it doesn't matter to me if it's a book, if it's a podcast, if it's calling another producer and say, hey, what do you got going on your farm today? Just to call and hear some sort of something
Oh,
about
yeah.
the industry is just great. And following people online maybe and reading their articles and stuff about what they have going on. So I don't really read a
It's
lot of books because, like I said, because we're always moving, but I've always got a
right.
podcast on, always got somebody on the phone, always something like that.
Yeah, excellent resources podcast out
Yeah.
there. Of course, I say that with a podcast, but I do think I love having a podcast
Oh,
in my ear
yes.
when I'm out doing stuff.
Yep.
Now, I do caution sometimes just take the podcast out so you can just enjoy the moment. But it,
I need to start doing that maybe.
yeah, yeah, sometimes I get out there and I'm like, I'm not listening. I'm just going to enjoy the moment and be
Yeah.
more present. But a lot of times I have a podcast in my ear or an
Yeah.
audiobook. So those are really nice. That network's so important.
Yes.
And you mentioned Greg Judy. Actually, the first person who comments in the Grazing Grass community about Greg Judy, when this drops, I've got a free book for
Oh, how
them
funny.
on,
Very cool.
yeah, I can't even think of the title now. It's his third book.
Yeah.
I've got one, so if someone comments in the Grazing Grass community, I'll get that book to you.
That's awesome.
But excellent resources.
Yes.
Our second question, what's your favorite tool for the farm?
So my favorite tool is the sprayer, and it goes back to that hot wire. I have weed eated. I told my husband, I was like, I don't want to use sprays. I just don't like them. I don't want to breathe, all the things that go along
Right,
with them.
all the reasons.
Yeah. And so for this whole season, I have got out there and moved the fence over. Move the fence over. I'll never, no. The sprayer's my friend. I'm done with it. I spent a month worth of hours weed eating and mowing around places.
Oh,
And
yes.
I'm just like, I sprayed my first paddock, and 3 days later I come back and I was like, wow, that felt
Oh,
good. So I'm not going to go without
yeah,
it ever again
yeah.
now.
Yeah, we mention this a lot of times in the end point or our end goal, we may be wanting to be there. No
Yes.
chemicals, no
Yeah.
whatever. But on our journey, sometimes
Yes.
we need to use some of those crutches or
Yeah.
resources, depending on how you want to frame it, to get to that end point. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, people don't take enough. And again, no, I don't want to spray. But if you don't do these little things to help yourself out along the way, your burnout's going to be so real, you're never going to make it there anyway.
right. Because your farm has to be financially sustainable. But not only that, it's got to be sustainable for you to do the work
Yes. And if you're
and
doing,
continue on
yeah, we're
and
raising,
enjoy it.
exactly. And we're raising a family. We got the farm going on. We got all these things. And
Right.
if I'm mowing and weed eating for 10 hours a week just for one paddock, because you
Right.
got to go under every single fence,
Yeah.
that's something I'm willing to give up for this year. Next year, we'll probably have hard fence and I'll never have to do it again. But don't
Right.
be ashamed for having to do something for a short amount of time to get to your goal to never have to do it again.
Right. I completely agree.
Yep.
Our third question, what would you tell someone just getting started?
I would tell them to start small. Educate.
Not buy 300 ewes at the sale barn?
No. So it was God's gift to us that we did go through that, because now look at all the people we can help.
Oh,
But in the
yeah,
moment,
right.
it was not funny. It was not funny that we were crying and like, why did we do this to
Yeah.
ourselves? And there's no way out. And,
Right. But you learned a lot.
oh, did we ever? So I'm grateful for that. But I would tell them, start small. Don't be afraid to ask.
Mhm.
And don't
Oh,
be
yeah.
afraid to
Good
be
advice.
hungry for it and approach people. Like, some people are going to shoot you down and they're just rude. But truly, somebody who understands and where you've been and where you're from is going to break it down to you in a way that you can understand and meet you where you are. And that's where I think that we have a cool advantage in the way the Lord set it up for us, is we did start as those small producers and we did go all the way up. Now, we did towards the end jump into it big time, but we can say, hey, but you have to educate yourself. You have to hear something and say, I don't know what that is. I'm going to look it up. You have to put down the phone and not be on Facebook and listen to a podcast, because you have to make choices. It's not going to work for you. You have to work for your farm. It's not something you have to do forever, but it is growing pains, and you really, really do have to invest yourself in education as far as farming goes. You're never going to make it.
Yeah. Excellent advice. Our fourth question, where can others find out more about you?
So we have a page. It's called Peace in the Valley Farms, and you guys can always call us, email us. We're always available. I love to talk to people about sheep. My husband loves for me to talk to anybody about sheep besides him, so it works out.
Right. So
Yeah.
if you can talk to someone else about sheep, he doesn't have to hear as much about them that day.
Exactly. Yeah. And you'd think I'd run out, but I don't. I've always got something to say about him to him. Or new ideas somebody else gave me that day to present to him, and he's always grateful for that.
Yeah, I feel you. My wife sometimes is like, I don't need to talk about how you're going to rotate the cows or what you're going to try or this. Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly us.
Before we wrap up today, do you have a question for me?
I do. I might have convinced you to look a little harder about the Australian white.
You didn't have to try very hard because I'm already trying to figure out. I think we need something more. We've been keeping our own Katahdin rams.
Yeah.
And I just felt like we needed more meat on those lambs. So we went with Dorper last year, and then got 2 Dorper rams out there right now. The difference in those crossbred lambs versus the lambs we were producing are night and day.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So when I look at the photos of the Australian whites online and then hear you talk about it, I'm like, whoa, if that's really the case, I need an Australian white ram.
Yeah.
I need to try this and see. And I don't doubt what you're saying, but everyone's got their own context and how it works for them.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, it definitely makes me think, man, that's something I need to watch out for.
Yes.
That I need to find a ram or even a few F1s or something just to try and see how they work for me. I am concerned for the Dorpers I don't want to lose the parasite resistance I had with my flock.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm trying to monitor, and we'll see how it goes. But I'm really liking these lambs, and we're going to keep a few of them as ewes, so I'll see how they are on the maternal side. But yeah, you have me fully interested in the Australian whites. And I saw there's a deal in Missouri in Mount Vernon, July 31st, I believe. And I think someone's going to be there with talk about Australian whites.
Yes. We will actually. We'll be there. And we're going to go up. Doug Edge, who's the president of the AAWSBA, he'll be bringing I think a couple ewes and maybe his ram down.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. I think he's going to bring those, and then that way we'll be speaking and this is something I wanted to shed some light on before we actually got off of here, but the Missouri Sheep Producers Association, I think, is something that doesn't get enough light. We're actually going to start being a rep for them. And we will be hosting and talking about the Australian white as well at their annual meeting in the fall. But if you are in Missouri and would like to know the goings on and ins and outs of the sheep world and the sheep industry, it's a very simple sign up, and you get a newsletter every month. And I think we just need to really push for more people to know about that association. That way we can get more people involved in what's going on in our state with them. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Well, I saw that for July 31st. I thought, I need to check my schedule and see what I have going on that day.
It will be great. You should come over, and Doug is a wealth of information, and he actually owns RSG out in Indiana, which is fertility specialist for sheep and small ruminants. We're actually becoming a rep for his company as far as minerals and things like that go. We went up, and a lot of the reason why we went to the Missouri stud ram sale was to just sit there and have a conversation. And what do you see with the Australian whites? What are you guys seeing? What's the vision and the goals and things like that? So I think the more people that you could talk to about them and just see what their production looks like and what their goals are with them, it'll be really cool just to go up there and just have a conversation with him.
Oh, yeah. Well, Marque, really enjoyed you coming on and sharing today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Early on in this episode, Marque mentioned that this was all about everything not to do on the farm. And I value her honesty, her transparency with their farm. I think so often in this age of social media, we look at Instagram posts and reels, we look at the Facebook post, and we see everyone's doing so great, but not us. Because we see the whole picture in our mind, while Instagram and Facebook are showing the highlights. I think it's important we share our failures, our trying times, things we wish we'd done better, as well as those other times that we've succeeded. Because all those times are important for your journey. You learn a lot more when there's failures, when things don't work out as you planned, versus when things just go perfectly planned. So, Marque, thank you for being honest. Thank you for being transparent and sharing your struggles as well as your triumphs. And for you, the listener, remember, Instagram, Facebook are highlight reels, and you're seeing the whole picture in your operation. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Grazing Grass Podcast, where we bring you stories and insights into grass-based livestock production. If you're new here, we've got something just for you. Our new listener resource guide is packed with everything you need to get started on your listening journey with the Grazing Grass Podcast. It gives you more information about the podcast, about myself, and next steps. You can grab your free copy at grazinggrass.com/guide. Don't miss out. And hey, do you have a grazing story to share? We're always looking for passionate producers to feature on the show. Whether you're just starting out or have years of experience, your story matters. Head over to grazinggrass.com/guest to learn more and apply to be a guest. We'd love to share your journey with our growing community of grazers. Until next time, keep on grazing grass.